it out. You don't have to cry, you don't have to shout, 'cause if you're little you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. If you sit around and let them get on top, you won't change a thing. And just because you find that life's not fair, it doesn't mean that you just have to grin and bear it. If you always take it on the chin and wear it, you might as well be saying you think that it's okay, and that's not right. And if it's not right, you have to put it right. But nobody else is gonna put it right for me. Nobody but me is gonna change my story. Sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty.
I'm the Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano, and I'm pleased that you've chosen to be with us this month, in which our theme has been liberating love. Sometimes love starts with love of self, actualized, with the realization that we do not have to be restricted by the stories that others would write for us. Thank you, Ruby, for reminding us that the tiniest mite has a sting. Our life stories can shift if we follow our truth. I'm in a reflective mood this week. 1 year ago, you voted to call me as the fourth settled minister in your 68-year history. And 10 years ago, to the day, I first walked through the doors of the meetinghouse to interview for a part-time internship. That experience required for me to be ordained to the ministry. We have had a lot of memory making in those 10 years, and I know my story has changed along the way. Today we'll look back a bit, all in the hope that we might move forward in greater integrity and greater love. Our call to worship, with worship understood in its original meaning of a shaping concern for all that is of worth, comes to us from the Reverend Scott Taylor. We open ourselves to worship in the names of love. The love of family that brings us into being, allows us to bloom, and then sends us on our way with courage, knowing we can return no matter what. The love of partnered hearts that teach us to trust and help us know that who we are does not end at the barrier of our own skin. The love of friends who help us feel seen and sing our song back to us when we cannot hear it with our ears alone. The love of community that bathes us in belonging and calls us to see the needs of others as our own. And the greatest love, the love that will not let us go, even in our fear, even in our failure, even when we are lonely or lost. Love invites us home. If we listen, it is doing so even today. Come, let us worship together. Each week we light a flame in a chalice to signify the sacred space we create each time we gather together in community. I'd like to invite the Reverend Rosemarie Newberry to join me on the chancel. And anyone who was a part of Reverend Newberry's ordination vote, please come forward to light our chalice this morning. I know you're out there.
Whoa, there's lots of them.
Now, come on, if you were there, come up and show.
Oh yeah.
Somebody light it, yeah. You can all be here around, yeah. If you were here.
Lots of you. Lots of you that voted.
All right, thank you. It is among the most sacred privileges a congregation's members has to ordain a person to ministry. In Unitarian Universalism, no hierarchy makes that decision. Rather, a congregation's members themselves perform an act that changes a person's story and sets them off on a journey of service. Today we honor a member of this congregation throughout her ministerial career who now makes a transition out of active ministry and into new life and adventures to come. So our chalice lighting words this morning are a litany of appreciation. Rosemarie Newberry, the members of this congregation ordained you a minister, and the whole community has followed your progress through the years, including several in which you liaised with us as an affiliated community minister. Not only have you served Unitarian Universalist ministry well and faithfully, but you have given congregations and individuals in need the best of your heart and mind. Now the time has come for an ending that is also a beginning. You have given yourself to ministry with full enthusiasm and joy. You have led worship, taught, and listened when others needed your presence, and you challenged many to bring healing to a broken world. You have searched for that higher truth, which can neither be named nor grasped, but which makes human life possible. A Zen teacher once wrote, "It is at the edge of transition that we find experience." Reverend Rosemarie, today you stand on that edge. It is a good place to be, for it is the place where life emerges. Thus may it be, yesterday, today, and forever. Amen. Congratulations. And a most welcome announcement. Please stay after in the community room.
I'm getting your ladybug.
Okay. Please stay after in the community room to continue our celebration of Reverend Rosemarie, for there will be cake. Cake. I invite us now to rise in body and our spirit to sing our opening hymn. It's number 368 in our hymnals and on the screen. Now let us sing. There are two parts. I'll sing one of them. I think the other will become clear, and there are 4 verses: faith, hope, joy, and love. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the love within.
That was fun. Thank you. Do you ever worry that something you're doing isn't good enough? This is going to be a good story for you then. Ever have self-doubt? Do you ever fall into the trap of perfectionism? Apparently, I'm not alone, because the first time I read this story, Ish, by Peter J. Reynolds, I could see myself in it. This is Ramon. Ramon loved to draw. Anytime, anything, anywhere. One day, Ramon was drawing a vase of flowers. His brother, Leon, leaned over his shoulder. Leon burst out laughing. "What is that?" he asked. Well, Ramon could not even answer. He just crumpled up his drawing and he threw it across the room. Leon's laughter haunted Ramon. He kept trying to make his drawings look right, but they never did. After many months and many crumpled pieces of paper, Ramon finally just put the pencil down and said, "I'm done." Do you ever feel like that? You ever just feel done? I feel like that sometimes. Now, Marisol, his sister, was watching him. "What do you want?" he snapped. "I was watching you draw," she said, and Ramon sneered. Ramon was not in the mood. "I'm not drawing. Just go away." Marisol ran away, but not before picking up a crumpled sheet of paper. "Hey, come back here with that," Ramon said, and he raced after her up the hall and into her room. He was about to yell, but fell silent when he saw his sister's walls. He stared at the crumpled gallery. "This is one of my favorites," his sister said. "That was supposed to be a vase of flowers, but it doesn't look like one." "Well, it looks vase-ish," she exclaimed. Vase-ish. Ramon looked closer. Then he studied all the drawings on the wall, and he began to see them in a whole new way. "They do look ish," he said. Ramon felt light and energized. He began to draw what he felt, loose lines, quickly springing out without worry. Ramon once again drew. This time, he drew the world around him. Making an ish drawing felt wonderful. He filled his journals. Tree-ish, house-ish, boat-ish, afternoon-ish, fish-ish. Try to say that one 3 times fast. Sun-ish. Ramon realized that he could draw ish feelings too. Pokish, silly-ish, excited-ish. His ish art inspired ish writing. He wasn't sure if he was writing poems, but he knew that they were poemish. I love this poem. It might be one of my new favorites. It's titled Ponder. "Ponder, ponder, dream yonder, pond, pond, yond, yond, gleam, wander." Signed, Ramon. One spring morning, Ramon had a wonderful feeling. It was a feeling that even ish words and ish drawings could not capture. So instead, he simply savored it. And Ramon lived ishfully ever after. So like Ramon, I too can become paralyzed by the fear of not being good enough. I strive for perfection in everything I do, from my work to my relationships. But this book, this children's book, reminded me that this pursuit is not only exhausting, but it also prevents me from fully experiencing life. Because remember, perfectionism is a trap. I'm in school right now, and when you're in school, you learn a lot of lessons. The most valuable lesson that I've learned is to embrace the ish, the in-between, the not quite perfect, because that's where the magic happens. Or as my professor, Dr. Kirk, said to me, good enough is enough. Good enough is enough. I'm now making a conscious effort to let go of my need for perfectionism, and it is hard. I'm learning to celebrate my ishness, my quirks and my imperfections, focusing on progress and not perfectionism, and enjoying the journey rather than the destination. And so Ish is a book that I know I will return to again and again, because it's a simple yet gentle reminder that we are all perfectly imperfect, and that it is in our imperfections that we are the most beautiful. And now, let's sing our children and youth to their faith development programs with Go Now in Peace. Do you need this?
Each week in this congregation, we are provided with an opportunity to practice generosity. This is your invitation to contribute to the well-being of our congregation and to our social justice partners through the good works of organizations which receive half of the monies collected each month. Our Share the Plate recipient for January is the Climate Reality Project, which since 2006 has been very involved with environmental justice. Environmental pollutants weigh most heavily on poor and Black communities, which are not the main contributors to the problem. The Climate Reality Project is working to stop the burning of fossil fuels in favor of transitioning to non-polluting solar and wind power. In our UUCMC community, climate educators Pat and Steve Miller have been trained as climate reality leaders. The impacts of climate change make every single social justice problem worse. I hope you'll generously support the Climate Reality Project and other efforts to solve the climate crisis generously with both your time and your donations here today. For those of you present here in the meeting house, the plates will be passed by the ushers. You may also join this time of generosity via text message, or send your offering by mail, or charge your contribution online with a memo designating an amount to the Climate Reality Project. Please give generously.
Yes, as you have heard, it's our anniversary, yours and mine. Yep. 10 years ago to the day, I first walked through the doors of the meetinghouse to interview to become your part-time ministerial intern. Never would I have imagined that 5 years after that, I would go on to become your co-minister, or that Reverend Virginia would soon retire, making me your contract minister by default in the middle of a pandemic. And that a year ago, again to the day, you would vote to make me permanent, or at least keep me around for a while. 10 years. I have to admit, when I think about anniversaries, my mind has a penchant for dwelling in the past, thinking of everything that came before and up to the moment of the anniversary, and then evaluating how things have gone. This is seldom for me an elating experience, for I tend to see how I've come up short. I could have done more of this and less of that, how I really should have done so. On the one hand, we don't want to forget what's happened in the past, and indeed we often honor others no longer with us when we commemorate anniversary milestones. But there's also a danger in anniversaries, in hearkening back. We can get trapped in a nostalgia of the past that often bears less and less resemblance over time to what actually happened. And that can begin to make us long for that which never was, and to find what is wanting by comparison. When I think of years gone by, I tend to pat myself on the back for having survived, or shake my head with amazement at the thought of time having passed so quickly, and then move towards mulling over how much less I've accomplished than I thought I might have. Maybe some of you have a more healthy relationship to anniversaries than I do. I hope so. If only I had heard the wisdom acquired by Ramon, I think I might have approached things in a more ishly manner. So anticipating our anniversary, I started thinking whether I might adjust my customary ways of thinking on the past in order to liberate me to grow more productively toward new challenges and possibilities. And ours came as something of a revelation to me that rather than looking back at times of anniversaries, they could just as easily, productively, it seemed to me, be used as times for looking forward. Rather than celebrating having lived to the end of an era, one could celebrate the inception of a new one. Rather than getting lost in nostalgia, one could imagine oneself into new ways of being. We can use the lessons of the past to live more productively in the now. We can even look to particular moments of the past and find lessons there that ring even more true now. So, I remember the first time I was in charge of a service in the fall of 2014. So imagine back with me, if you will, my very first time preaching the sermon. I stepped up here at this beautiful pulpit, and I said, or rather, I sang, "You say either, and I say either. You say neither, and I say neither. Either, either, neither, neither. Let's call the whole thing off." He had some chutzpah, the kid, right? Luckily for me, and maybe for you too, I continued. "You like potato, and I like potato. You like tomato, and I like tomato. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Let's call the whole thing off." But that's not the end of that great George and Ira Gershwin standard, introduced by Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers on roller skates in the 1937 film Shall We Dance? For it goes on to say, But oh, if we call the whole thing off, then we must part. And oh, if we ever part, then that might break my heart. You say laughter, and I say laughter. You say after, and I say after. Laughter, laughter, after. Let's call the whole thing off. I like bananas, and you like bananas. I say Havana, and I get Havana. Bananas, bananas, Havana, Havana. Go your way, I'll go mine. But oh, if we call the whole thing off, then we must part. And oh, if we ever part, then that might break my heart. So if I go for scallops and you go for lobsters, all right, no contest. We'll order lobsters, for we know we need each other so. We'd better call the calling off. Let's call the whole thing off. So 10 years later, it occurs to me that perhaps the most important lesson I've learned again was already in that first song. We need each other. We need each other. And here's some evidence. Because after all, specifically in our history together, we've done some important things. And that's when things started to go wrong. Now, we don't want to miss this, though. I'm gonna have to do it again. It's probably the Norton safety device protecting us in their inevitable way. Okay, all right. See? This is going well-ish. All right. Oh, you did that. All right. We've done some important things together. Remember that? Yeah. Some of my togetherness craft ideas worked really well. Remember that one? Others were better not tasted. That was my sad attempt at Passover matzah that were not approved by the U.S. Dental Association. Our camaraderie moved out beyond the walls of this meeting house to Boston, yes, to Murray Grove, even up a rock climbing wall. By the way, there's only one group of people in this congregation I would climb a wall for. The youth and the children here won my heart right from the start. Intern, co-minister, contract minister, settled minister. I really have worn a lot of hats. And in a huge way, as I look back, these last 10 years, I've learned a lot about you. I've learned that ever since 4 families put a piece in the local newspaper in 1956, soliciting feedback about the possibility of organizing a Unitarian fellowship in the county, ever since the fellowship was organized on January 6, 1957, meeting at the Old Mill in Tinton Falls, you have been a people of principled planning. There are no more slides, so you don't have to, you can gaze upon yourselves because you are all a blessing, as you can see. You knew you needed a permanent home. So over the next several years, as membership grew, you moved from part-time ministers to installing the Reverend Harold Dean as your first called minister. You attempted to buy 2 different mansions in Rumson, then a couple of houses in the area, then a movable army structure, and finally a large horse barn. All did not work out. You are a persistent people. 8 years into the dream, moving from temporary spaces every year or so, in April 1964, ground was broken on this 19-acre site, and the meetinghouse was dedicated a year later, the weekend of May 16th, 1965. Imagine, well, some of you were there. Imagine the uneasiness of settling plans falling through again and again. Then building blueprints and taking on the responsibilities of being a permanent fixture in a new neighborhood. You are a people of courage. What some of you may not know, the congregation did not meet here in the earth room. For nearly 30 years, what is now the community room was the sanctuary. And this gorgeous space may never have happened the way it took shape, but for a fire that gutted much of the western portion of the original building. In coming together to recover from that tragedy in 1986, the stamina to raise money for an addition was summoned for this gorgeous space. You are a resourceful people. Other things also happened gradually. Although programming for children and music for all began almost immediately upon the creation of the fellowship, it took nearly 20 years before a part-time director of religious education was hired. Her name was Corey Hoffman. Anybody know her? And it would be 33 years before a part-time music director was hired in 1999. Her name was Elaine Vander Plate Held. You are a people who value programming for all ages and with music as a spiritual core. You created other landmarks along the way, opening the Lincroft Center for Children in 1984, organizing the Monmouth Center for World Religions and Ethical Thought in 1993, becoming a welcoming congregation for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and gender-diverse persons in 1996, becoming certified as a green sanctuary in 2002. Even in pandemic virtuality, you summoned up the conviction to place front and center an 8th principle to join the previous 7, vowing to create the conditions to dismantle racism and other oppressions. You are an environmentally conscious, inclusive people, restless in your desire to create conditions for equity amid diversity. That first time I came here, it turns out I had the time wrong by a half hour. I thought I was 15 minutes early, but I was actually 15 minutes late. So I was rushed right through the doors and into the earth room for my interview presentation. And most times when I arrive here, I do the same thing. I just come right on in. But there are 2 more things I've learned about you over the years that I could have learned before I even came through those doors 10 years ago, because it turns out they're etched in bronze right on the doors themselves. Who has ever noticed that there is writing on the doors? On the right-hand door, as you come in, the one you can automatically open by pushing a button, are words from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita translates as Song of the Lord, written sometime in the latter half of the first millennium before the Common Era, so 2,500 years ago. The Gita is a 700-verse portion of Book 6 of the Hindu scripture known as the Mahabharata, the great epic of the Bharata dynasty. In the Gita, in the midst of warfare, Prince Arjuna dialogues with his charioteer guide Krishna about a broad range of spiritual and ethical issues related to ongoing battles that metaphorically stand in for the struggles of human life. On our door, it reads, "We are made by our belief. As we believe, so are we. We are made by our belief. As we believe, so are we. As religious educator pioneer Sophia Lyon-Fahs said in one of the most quoted sequences in Unitarian Universalism, it matters what we believe. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. It matters what we believe. We are made by our belief. As we believe, so are we. Do you still believe that you are a principled, persistent, courageous, resourceful people who values programming for all ages, music, and making a difference in the world? These are worth being reminded of because there are many things we can do in this next chapter we've embarked upon together. And I believe you are ready to take on the challenges to come. Do you? We are made by our belief. As we believe, so are we. On the left-hand door are engraved words that go to the heart of our monthly theme of liberating love and include words I often use in services here. They come from Julian of Norwich, an English monastic woman who lived in the late 1300s in permanent seclusion and who received visions, which she wrote down in Revelations of Divine Love. On our door is perhaps her most famous pronouncement: all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. For through all life moves a love that will not let us go. Especially in Universalism, love was at the center of a theology that celebrated the liberating power of the divine experienced as love. That we are made from love, that we are worthy of love, that we are held by love in its care, and that our practices can manifest that love throughout the course of our lives. If, as the right door says, as we believe, so are we, then I can think of nothing better to begin and end with, as far as belief goes, than trusting that we are loved, and that despite the storms of life, we can center ourselves in the joy that comes from living into love. For it would be so easy to give in to anxiety. And if that is what we believe, then so we will be. Julian of Norwich certainly experienced tremendous hardship. In fact, her visions came to her on what she thought would be her deathbed. Hers was an active embrace of love, a practice of trusting that beyond sickness, misfortune, even death, there is a love that transcends chaos and impermanence. We can join ourselves to that love and guide our lives away from stories that confine, just as Ruby sang so beautifully to us this morning. We can move away from the resignation that would suggest that we call the whole thing off I mean, there are so many ways that we are different one from another. But we choose to live in the knowledge that we need one another, that together we can harness liberating love, and that on our best days, even if only ishly, we can create community, transform ourselves, and transform the world around us. So 10 years in, I proclaim 3 essential lessons I have learned, and I've learned them from you. We need each other. It matters what we believe. We can start manifesting change by harnessing ourselves to the love that is created whenever we rise above ourselves and join together in manifesting the joy that comes from the liberating love that holds us in its grasp and will not let us go. Your UUCMC is yours. You own it. It is yours to maintain, yours to care for, yours to manifest in the world, yours to love. And I'm proud to work alongside you as we do so. So happy anniversary, UUCMC. Let's call the whole thing on-ish. Amen. I invite us into a time of prayer and meditation with a litany in which I will invite you to say along with me, we open our hearts with love. We open our hearts with love. All right. When the world's violence shatters the joy of a moment, we pause and reach out for the hands that remain. We open our hearts with love. When despair rises as a monster from the deep and drags down one of our own, our answer is that we open our hearts with love. When hatred and anger rage in fire and suffering, we bend to pick up the wounded, to bind up ourselves, and we open our hearts with love. When fear whispers, build more gates, add more locks, the blessed are those who defend themselves. We rock those fear to sleep and let them rest as we open our hearts with love. People will do unspeakably cruel and horrible things. We know this fact. We live and die this daily all around the world, in every community and every wasteland. But we know the answer is found only with one action, and so we open our hearts with love. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone can be healed. This is the truth we affirm. We live with courage and with a wider and wider circle of that force that bends our lives to ones of mercy, justice, and compassion. We open our hearts with love. It's the truth. Just by being born, you are loved. There is something within you and every person that can be loved. So we open our hearts with love. In love, we pray for those families, those individuals, all the persons here and everywhere who are desperately sure that there is not enough love in the world for them to have some, who are desperately sure that they do not matter. In love with life, in love with the beloved, we turn to answer that desperation with assurance. You are loved. You are lovable. We will and do love you because we open our hearts with love. Now we attend to our life's work, to love. It's the only legacy that matters. Amen. I invite us to rise in body and or spirit to sing our closing hymn, one whose words have accompanied me my entire ministry, words sung at my ordination and at my installation as your settled minister in May last year. It's number 317 in our hymnals and on the screens. We are not our own. For our benediction, I close with a brief poem by American Sufi author Daniel Ladinsky, inspired by the 14th century Persian poet Hafez. And still, after all this time, the sun has never said to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with love like that. It lights up the sky. Let us go in peace to bless the world.